The aim of Black Mental Matters is to tell experiences with honesty. Therefore, some discussions may trigger an adverse reaction. If a discussion is beginning to upset you, we advise that you please stop listening and talk to your support team.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, once again, welcome. It's Black Mental Matters. It's your boy, Vince the Voice. I'm back. Yes, I'm black, and I'm so glad to be here with you once again. I know it's been a minute, so before we get started, let me just share something a little personal that, hey, I've made some major changes in my life since last time we talked. After nearly 45 years, I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking. I'm on day 60 as we tape right now, and I just made a conscious decision to focus more on my health and wellness. What I've learned over this short period of time is that it's easy to spend years telling everybody else what to do while neglecting yourself. You know, hey, you need to get some therapy. I finally did it myself. You know, you need to stop drinking, you need to stop smoking. You know, we show up for work, we show up for family, we show up for our communities, but a lot of times we don't show up for ourselves. For a lot of us, especially Black men, we're taught to, just keep moving no matter what. And that's why today's guest challenges us to think differently, and I'm so glad to have her. It's Moniek Garside, everyone. She's a licensed clinical social worker, therapist, speaker, educator, mental health advocate, and author of the upcoming book, The Power of Your Pause, From Autopilot to Awareness, the Transformative Power of Stillness. We're going to be talking about emotional wellness, self-awareness, intentional living, and why sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is pause. So Moniek Garside, welcome to Black Mental Matters. Crowd goes crazy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, very good. Glad to have you. Tell us a little. Well, again, I want to say shout out to your team who got us together. I need you now, though, Moniek, to tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey into the work that you do.
Absolutely. So I've been, my background is social work. I've been in the field almost 20 years. But I've been connected to the field before I even knew what it was. You know how, when you realize that you were doing something before you even knew what it was. And so I feel like I've been in the space of social work, in the space of holding space for people um, my entire life. And so for the past almost 20 years, I've worked in, different spaces, but right now my focus has kind of really been on how do I teach people to care for themselves? And so in any space that I show up for, that's my mission, whether it's, therapy in in the classroom, just in the community, it's how are you taking care of yourself? And so that's really been my focus over the last, few years or so. It's just really transitioning into that.
One of my missions is to get more young people, get people involved in this field. And I think sometimes that there's a moment or something that you realize, hey, that's what I want to do. Was there a moment for you when you knew that helping people was your calling?
It was. So I actually was a nursing major.
Mm.
I worked in a hospital because I had to work full time all through school. And so I was an undergrad and I was in a nursing program, was working, and I was a tech, but I was always at the bedside, asking them like, what's going on? What's happening with you? And I'll go to the nurses and they'd be like, that is not your job. And they put me out the rooms and they're like, this is not what you do. And I'm like, but they need help. And so in the middle of that, before I was supposed to take my nursing exams to start clinical rotations, I was like, this isn't what I want to do. And I changed my major and I didn't miss a beat. Everything transitioned over, but I knew that I had settled into, I knew where I wanted to be.
Mm, mm. I feel that so much, I could story after, yeah, and I encourage people to think about that for a moment because it does. It shows you, it's like a common denominator that happens in your life. And if
Yeah,
you don't follow that, you kind of missing your purpose that you were down there, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I didn't want to finish and, finish with the nursing program. And of course, it's of helping people, but not the way I really wanted to do it.
hmm
Mm.
hmm Well, one of the things that immediately caught my attention, Monique, with you was this phrase that you had, living on autopilot. What does that mean exactly?
So, it's when we just do things automatically. So you wake up, you grab your phone, you just start to go through your day. You might be driving and you just look up and you realize, like, oh, I missed my turn. And you're just driving, right? You're just focused. These are ways where we realize like we're just moving, we're just going through life and we're not connected. Sometimes even when you eat, you've eaten all your food and it's like, did you really enjoy it? Like, did you stop? We do the things that are necessary, but we're not really present about what's going on around us.
Hmm. Are there any ways that you can recognize that you're doing this? I mean, because you just do it. It's just who you are, you know. How can you recognize and think for it's like, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing this autopilot thing.
Yeah. So you may not always recognize it in the moment, but I think it's recognizing that it's a thing. So if you first say, okay, you know what? I can see how I could function on autopilot. Let me start to be intentional about slowing down. Let
Mm.
me start to be intentional about when I wake up in the morning, instead of grabbing my phone, let me sit up. Let me do a body scan. How do I feel this morning? It's like being intentional because you may not always catch it because that's what autopilot is, right? You're just going through. So that aha moment may not happen. But knowing that we do it, you can start to be more intentional about those moments.
Oh man, I mean, it really does resonate with me. Years I was just busy, you know, I'm just constantly
Yeah.
checking the boxes, hosting events, producing projects, taking care of responsibility, but not checking in on myself. And I know I wasn't always paying attention, just rolling with it. Are you seeing that with a lot of people today? Is that what's going on in our lives?
Absolutely. We're busy. But we're busy exhausting ourselves. So we're
Exhausting.
busy, we're carrying all the things, but we also are
Oof.
just it's the culture that we're in where the hustle and bustle gets the praise, where you have to be doing all the things. And so we get caught in that. And it's not until we are exhausted, depleted, or something happens where we realize how we've been functioning. And a lot of times it's been for years.
Mm. Well, speaking of that, if it's years, what happens emotionally, with our mental, with our psyche when we stay on autopilot for too long?
So the burnout happens. We get into these behaviors and patterns where we're almost in fight or flight a lot, right? Where we're like we're in that functioning where I have to do this. We're quickly doing it. We're
Mm,
not sitting in something long enough, right? But the exhaustion happens, the physical symptoms, right? So the fatigue. You might also start to feel a lot of more anxious about things, right? So anticipating things happening because I've got to get to the next thing. So now you're worried, and so the worry starts, and it all takes a mental toll on you where you can't calm yourself down or your thoughts continue to race, and then that eventually just wears on you.
mm. I was not kidding you, that sometimes I feel like when I do these programs with great guests like yourself, it's like a free session because you're speaking. I mean, there are times, fellas, don't be ashamed to say it, because, to look on the outside, oh man, he doing this. They don't have a clue sometimes of what's really
Absolutely.
going on between your ears there
Mhm.
and what it takes to get to a certain position. And is that really important? And then heaven forbid we start talking about relationships. How does this autopilot affect our relationships?
Well, it affects how we show up. So if you think about when we're not really aware of what's going on with ourselves, we bring it into our relationships, right?
Mhm,
So maybe there are some unmet expectations or some unrealistic expectations, right? So if I'm functioning in this way, I might expect you to do the same, right? If I'm like, go, 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 and I don't want to stop, I might have an expectation of my partner that they should be matching that or they should be, doing something. But the other part is it doesn't give moments where we need to take a moment to communicate, to maybe recognize some things that are happening in the relationship. If we're constantly going, we're not really being aware of those things to actually take moments to handle, little breaks that happen in the relationship.
mhm. What about our physical health? Does this? I know again, as I said, smoking and drink. So I mean, my routine every day was get up in the morning, get that coffee going, get my pack of American Spirit Golds out, get my lighter ready, smoke.
Yeah.
But I have already seen in this, again around 60 days, blood
Yeah.
pressure's gone way down, sleeping a lot better, more energy. I got to stay on that walking thing, I'm trying to do every morning.
Yes.
So, but how does this autopilot does it adversely affect our physical health?
Absolutely, in so many ways. So we think about when we are on autopilot or we are carrying a lot of things where it's like we're reacting a lot, right? So we're not really stopping to handle things. Do you think about the stress that builds up? And that stress that builds up continues to then impact us, right? So we know what stress can do. We call it a silent killer, right? So we know that stress, unhandled or unmanaged stress, can really take a toll on the body. And then we talk about constant fatigue. not sleeping well. So then if you're not sleeping, your immune system is breaking down. Right. So then we're more prone to getting sick. We're more prone to things like that. If you think about when you're not resting, you're not fully recovering. So every day, how much are you giving at full capacity, right? How much you actually able to show up. So think about your cognitive function. If my immune system is weakened, my body's exhausted, I'm just functioning. Am I making the best decisions?
No.
So it's all connected, right? It's like
Right.
you can't constantly think at max, right? Like at your best. And so these things build up. And so again, your body is going to start to break down. And if you're not handling those things, then physically you're going to start to suffer.
Mm, good stuff. Well, one of the things, reflecting on during my own journey again is how those habits can become part of your identity. And
Mhm.
after all those years of doing some of those things, it just becomes a part, like I say, of your lifestyle, your routine. Not
Yeah.
that you're trying to escape, but just something that you always do. How can we recognize when something has become a coping mechanism, say, instead of something that's actually helping or hurting us?
So I think that's the benefit of slowing down and stopping. If
Hmm.
that's the benefit, that's where the self-awareness piece comes in of being able to stop and process and actually, say, okay, this has been going on with me. Let me look at this pattern of this habit or this behavior. Let me take a moment to look at it, but not just identify it, but how is it impacting me? Like, how is it showing up in my life? And then you're able to then start to do something with that, right? Start to shift those habits and those behaviors because you're able to recognize how it's impacting your life and your day to day.
Mm. It sounds like it should be simple, doc, but change is difficult. I mean,
Yeah.
why is this so hard? Even though we know it's good. I know I should, but I ain't gonna lie. I'm sitting there right now, boy, a puff and a would be so good. But
Good. Yeah.
listen, I've learned to, and I do get the pats on the back, the wife, everybody, oh, go,
Yeah.
go, go. And I don't want to break that streak. You know what I'm saying? But it is tough. Why is change so difficult when we know that it's good for us?
I think, there's something so there's a couple things. There's something comfortable about things that soothe us. So when
Mhm.
we talk about there are certain habits, right? Like taking that puff or maybe having a drink or maybe things that they soothe us, right? We're used to them as being our go-tos. And so it's like, what do we trade that for? That gratification that feels good when we think about what am I trading that for? And so you're having to identify, okay, this may not work anymore. This may not be the healthiest choice, but what can I do? But it's being able to say, I want to change. You made a decision. You wanted to change as hard as it was. And so it's making the hard choices. It's not an easy choice. I think we want the easy, but it's making the hard choices to say, this doesn't serve me anymore. And this doesn't show up the way I needed to show up.
I know a lot of black men, especially, can relate to this conversation because, it was all raised to handle things ourselves, keep moving, keep working, figure it out, don't complain. And if you're still standing, then everything's okay. But hey, functioning and being healthy, I know, are not the same thing. And
Oh.
what are you seeing among black men when it comes to seeking help and support?
So I think that with Black men, part of it is the not wanting to ask for help or that weakness that comes that people associate with it,
See,
right?
yeah, that's you're being weak if you don't. Yeah, yeah.
Or you should be able to handle it. And so I think that them reaching out, them finding the right person too, because what I have found is that when a man actually finally says, I want to reach out and make that connection, how you handle that is so important because it took a lot for them to make that first step, right? And so you have to kind of handle that with care because this person finally got to that. But I think before they get to that too, it's giving themselves permission. It's like waiting on somebody to say it's okay, waiting for people to maybe not talk about them or not say something negative, the stigma that comes with it. And so it's often they move in silence. Often they come and no one knows that they're coming, which is fine. But you have to find the best way that works for you to say, all right, maybe I don't tell everyone, maybe I protect this so I can get the help I need. But a lot of times what I'm seeing is just the permission to like giving yourself permission to just go do it.
I don't know why in the back of my head, we talk about black men. I thought about black women, and the term "waiting to exhale" just came in my mind. I don't know what that is. Somebody pull that all together for me. But listen, I already know the answer to this
Uh-huh.
about cultural expectations and
Yeah.
how it impacts all this. But I want to hear your take on it because this is again Black Mental Matters, and it was designed again for
Yeah.
everybody, but particularly in our community because of taboo and stigma, and we don't want to do. But how do you think your take on cultural expectations, how it impacts our emotional and mental health, our wellness?
Yeah. So I think that we battle a lot with cultural expectations, but then also the old school of how things were done before. And then as we're trying to embrace this new space, I think where we're learning to talk about it more, where we're trying to embrace it more. But culture plays such a role in a way of before it's like, oh, you're okay, you're fine. People's response was very dismissive, right? Or again, it's always seen as a weakness where you needed to go get support, or we don't talk about things outside the house. All the things that we taught, right? All those things that layers to it. But then also how we have to show up in the world, right? How we have to be on all the time and we have to show this greatness. But what happens when I need help? How does that impact your view of greatness in me? And so it's being that part of I need to take care of myself, but I'm afraid to do it because I'm afraid of what the world will say. It creates more barriers. And so it's trying to soften that and say, it's okay. We're here to support you, but then also having clinicians that look like you so that we get it. We get it when it took you forever, or I get it when you might ghost me because, you felt uncomfortable in the last session. But
Mm,
culturally, it's figuring out how do we help maintain, ourselves? How do we help each other like stay healthy and well in a way though that it may not always be, supported by everyone, but you got to do it anyway. And
mm.
so it's the balance between wanting the buy-in, but also knowing that no matter what, I have to take care of myself.
Yes, yes. For those that listen, follow this program, and people that know me personally, they know that mental health is very personal. Losing some family members to suicide, just life. And looking back, I sometimes wonder, about conversations that weren't happening, signs that may have been missed, what support may have helped. What would you want families? You mentioned families to understand about recognizing when someone may be struggling.
So I think that if a person's behavior changes, right? If
Mhm,
you're used to them this way and all of a sudden there's a shift in it, that's a good sign of check in with them, right? But check in, not judge,
mm,
right? So check in with them. How are you? Offer space for them without telling them how they should show up, right? So that's one thing is looking at their behavior. If they start to isolate, if they start to distance themselves, and that's not normal for them as well, isolation is a good sign that we need to check in on our people and see what's going on with them, listening to them. So if they talk about if they're starting to get really negative, and maybe you're hearing some things, you're like, okay, it's storms and rain. I used to hear a lot of sunshine. Like, what's going on? That's
right.
also a great indicator of let me, think about that. And I think the other part is, knowing that as a family member, you may not be able to hold that space for them, but that's okay. But hold their hand to go get help, right?
Mm,
So you can't fix it for them. Don't fix it. I want you to get them support. And I think that's something too to remember is, family, we want to be better. We want to try to fix it, but just ask them what they need, but listen to what they need so that we don't impose what we want on them. We actually can hear them.
that first step can be probably the most important step. How can you even start that difficult conversations in your family, you think?
I think it's so if you're talking to somebody one on one, maybe you have them come over and you may say, hey, I just want to check on you. Are you okay? You know, um, you seem different lately.
Mm,
Is there anything you want to talk about? Would you like maybe to talk to me, or would you like me to help you talk to someone else? That kind of being very free in it in a way of we don't want to say, hey, you've been different. What's wrong with you? Right? We don't want to do that. We want to open it up in a softer way of, are you okay? Some things seem different. In that way of just letting the person know you notice. It's more people want to be like, we want you to notice that something's different. So I notice, and then what can I do for you? And it's soft like that. It may seem simple, but I think that normally how we hear people come at it is so much harder and, more aggressive,
Yeah.
and it turns them off. They're not able to talk about it.
That's right. You're gonna push back, but just
Mhm.
yeah, get that warm, some compadre. What is that word? We hey, I'm here, just to talk if you want to,
Absolutely.
So, and eventually it open up. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's
Mhm.
good. I'm so glad, and I hope our listeners take heed because there are. I mean, we always want to give some steps. Monique, to what we can do to address these issues, no matter what it is. There are solutions, and that's where people, professionals like yourself come into play. And so what I like to do now, let's talk about that book because they can take you with them, wherever they go. What got me again is such a powerful title. Just alone, the title, The Power of Your Pause.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that. What inspired that title?
The title hit me before I actually wrote out the entire book.
Hmm.
The title hit me because between sitting in sessions and just in my own experience, what we're waiting for permission in every way to stop and to take a moment and a pause. And that pause can look different for everyone. But that's where it came from was there is so much power in stillness. And I tell my clients all the time, I need you to sit still. I need you to sit with yourself. And no one loves it. But there's power in that stillness. But we don't get to stillness until we pause.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
that's
I'm sorry to cut you out, but that it threw me back to the COVID days. People had to just stop doing everything and look at themselves in the mirror, and then looking at their family members around. And like, I don't even like these kids. That kind of it was a lot of reality coming because of that stillness.
Absolutely. And I think during COVID was a great point to show to where people really realize we've been busy and distracted and we had no choice but to sit still, right? But the book, The Power of Your Pause, is teaching you the value of that stillness, but then what do we do in it? So I can't tell you to sit still and I don't tell you what to do in it. And so in it, it's really taking you through this journey of what to do in those moments to increase your self awareness, to really pour into yourself, but also to shed light on some things that we really need to be working on. And if we don't take the time to stop, we don't get to that. But again, we're in this constant hustle and bustle. We're in this kind of, you have to be doing all the things, and we don't make time for it.
Mm. I mean, is that what makes stillness so difficult that we just think I just ain't got time to be still.
Well, part of me yeah, it's difficult, but I think we don't know what to do. When I
Mm,
tell people even when I tell people to journal, they're like, "What am I supposed to write?" Whatever comes up, put it down, right? But stillness in the way of that silence, we don't do well with silence. Remember, we are constantly stimulated
mm.
from society, from social media, from all the things we're constantly stimulated. And so sitting still is really hard. But in that stillness is where I want to walk you through some really important things so that you can create more space for it, but then you can see the benefit of it. And so that's really where that stillness, the work that happens in that stillness is where the transformation happens.
Who did you write this book for? Was it for, high achievers, people trying to get ahead? I mean, who is this book written for?
Ooh, this everyone.
Hmm.
But I will tell you, well, you hit something when you talked about our higher achievers. So, we are so conditioned in the more we have, right, the more productive we look, the more things we're doing, right? That means that we're doing great. And we have a lot of people that are well put together and they look amazing on the outside, but are suffering on the inside because they're waiting on permission to stop. And they're waiting on that moment to say, how do I care for myself? And what do I do? And this is where the book comes in of giving you permission to stop. But then also, what do you do when you stop? Like I can't, you know what I mean? It's like I can't tell you to stop. And then I don't tell you what to do in those moments. But then also then how when you finish reading the book, how do you then take that and apply that in your everyday? Right? Because everyone's pause looks different. It could be little moments in your day. It could be a week. Whatever that looks like. But it's not just one way.
When you said the everything looks, I had experiences. I've worked with a number of business associations over the years, and people who, like you say, I mean, companies $1 million company plus, doing their thing, but just complain and complain and everything was so. And I just sometimes I just want to punch folks in the face. You know what I'm saying? I know that ain't right
Right.
because it's like, what is it? Um, and I guess that's just a challenge across the board as to, what I don't know if it's are we, what's for success or for happiness or what is that end goal? What is that thing that we're really trying to find? Monique, you would think,
Yeah.
you would
I
say.
think that's a great question. I think sometimes we don't know. Like, I think sometimes you get to that next level and then like, okay, then you're like, what's next? Right. Because you haven't within self figured out what that looks like for you, where you are happy. Because when we equate happiness to achievements, then is that really true for you? Right. Where does that settle within your spirit and with you? And or are we doing this for ourselves? Are we doing this for everyone around us? And so you have to figure out your why.
Mm,
If you don't identify your why and why you're doing these things and why this next promotion or this next thing is necessary and how it shows up for you, then you're just doing it and chasing the next thing. And so
mm.
when we stop, we can identify our why as well. Why is this important to me? Why does this connect to me? And when we can do that, then we can say, this is enough. Or you can figure out, okay, maybe I want to redirect this. But at some point, you got to figure out what enough looks like.
I want to say too that pause, whole um, idea about pausing and stillness. You don't want to be at the end of your time here on this earth and say,
Yeah,
"Man, I wish I would have smelled more roses or walked along the beaches and
yeah,
things like that." You
yeah.
you have to stop in order to realize and to actually make those things happen in your life. And
Yeah.
if someone only remembers one lesson from the book, what
Mm.
would you want it to be?
That you don't need permission.
Mm,
You don't. I tell people all the time, they think that they have to earn rest and they have to earn uh, these moments, and you don't. You don't have to. You don't need permission, and you don't have to earn it. It is yours.
mm. Very good. It's the power of the pause. Moniek Garside. It's available now for pre-sale. What releases July 4th of this year, distributed worldwide through Ingram Spark. They can pick it up everywhere, right, and read
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
And yes, yes, we're excited about what's going to be coming. I want to throw some rapid fire. I want you to finish the sentence for me, would you, Monique?
Okay.
Right. Here we go. All right. The sentence is peace is what?
Necessary.
Mm. Self-care is.
Necessary.
I wish more people understood.
That they are innately worthy of everything that they ask for.
I like that. One thing everyone needs more of is
Kindness.
yes, yes, kindness. I like empathy too.
Hmm.
I think that of course that's not well, yeah, you need to have it for somebody else to give it to you. So
Absolutely.
we just need to practice more empathy out here in the world. Um, your favorite way to pause is
Ooh, my favorite way in my day to day, my favorite way is it's funny. It's not necessarily stillness, but is the gym,
mm,
because I can silence everything and I put my headphones on and I zone out, and that is my space to really like decompress.
on a bigger stage. What's your favorite way to pause? Is it at the beach? Is it at the in the walking in the mountains? Or
So
what is it for you?
so funny part is January I took my first solo trip, 3 days in the mountains, and that was great. Something like that of like silence and stillness, like the road because I drove to Gatlinburg, but it was like that was really, really good for me. That's a give me a couple of days of just nature, and it was awesome.
Very good, very good. Well, we are almost out of time. It has really, really been good. Went fast. That's why I know it's good. Tell folks how they can find you, Monique, please.
Yep. So you can find me on Instagram at I am Monique Garside. That's MoniekGarside. And you can go to my website. It's MoniqueGarside.com.
But Monique, we thank you so much for joining us here today on Black Mental Matters. And what I really appreciate about this conversation that it reminds us wellness isn't just about avoiding a crisis, it's about being intentional, being aware, being present. You don't need permission. And for those listening today, especially the fellas, I want you to hear this. Taking care of your mental health doesn't make you weak. I'm going to say it again. Taking care of your mental health does not make you weak. Asking for help does not make you weak. Making changes, put down the squares in the drink, that don't make you weak. I'm talking to myself now. It makes you human. I made some significant changes, I'm telling you, and I'm still learning, I'm still growing, I'm still doing the work, and that's okay. So again, Moniek Garside, thank you for sharing your wisdom and for the work that you're doing to help people live healthier, more intentional lives. And of course, we want to thank you all listeners for spending this time with us. Until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and never forget that Black mental matters. We'll see you next time.